go. I don't know why, but excellent condition. We're live. And YouTube says what? I guess we're live. It looks like we're live. So, hello everyone. Hello no one. Welcome to the Minutes with MwM Show. Show 41. And guess what? We're talking about crazy stuff as usual. And if you're new to the channel, please watch the videos, get through it, pick out the stuff you like, subscribe, check out all the other videos, some of the shorts. The basic idea of this was a talk show. It wasn't set up for me to talk all the time, but that's the way it's working out. I do have ways of people to get in touch with me. Get them live on the stream. You can talk through the chat. You can actually make a phone call. I've got it set up so you can make a phone call. In fact, I need to turn that on. Ruh-roh, Scooby. Why does it look like... What happened to my picture? There's always something. Always something going on. And I don't know how to correct it. So let's see. Man, you can't see it. But anyway, it's there. It's a telephone number. I don't know why. It's changed colors on me. And in the YouTube, you might be able to see it in the background. I know you can see the black numbers against the red flag. But anyway, nobody ever calls in anyway, so just ignore that. So tonight we're talking about leeches. All right. Hey Robert. Hey Clell. Glad you guys to be here. Why were we talking about leeches? What's a leech? Why would you even want to know about them? Well, the other day, my last show, I talked about a Medal of Honor recipient, and kind of strange. He was in World War II, got injured. Of course, that's how he got received the Medal of Honor. And they used maggots in his wounds to help keep them clean. Okay? This show's not about maggots. It's about leeches. Only reason I decided to do it about leeches was everybody seemed to think or know that leeches or maggots eat dead and decaying flesh, and therefore they'd be good for prevention of gangrene and things like that, where you have a wound, it gets infected, and it starts to rot, and it poisons your bloodstream, and it just infects your whatever gets cut or infected, then you lose your life from gangrene. And if you have maggots, as the flesh starts to decay, the maggots eat it. So when we're talking about that, people seem to realize, people watching the shows, that, well, yeah, that's common. Been used for a long time. Well, leeches are not really the same thing, but they are, they're not a mammal. They're a worm. Maggots are larvae, so they're kind of a worm in transition. So leeches have been used, I don't know, forever seems like, for treatment of illnesses. Okay, so I thought I would do a little research on leeches and talk about them. And so bloodletting, to me, takes on a different connotation than leech therapy. I don't know, man. Bloodletting to me is almost where you open up a wound and let it bleed directly out. But I guess you could interchange the two, bloodletting, leech therapy. Bloodletting is, just that, getting rid of blood from the body. Leech therapy is more humane, I guess you would say. One of the things I looked up, and I'll read it here after a while, is some of the things leech therapy are being used for. So instead of, let's say you were using it to control wounds, currently they still use them in the United States, and they're restricted to certain treatments. And one of the most common is plastic surgery in soft tissue. So what I understand is the saliva of the leech, okay, has anticoagulating properties. That means the blood won't clot. And if you have like soft tissue surgery, let's say, I don't know, they have to reattach, your earlobe, or they have to reattach part of the finger or something like that, or, they have to do cheekbone surgery, have to do something like that. The soft tissue apparently is more prone to clotting. And so they can apply leeches to the area, and their leech saliva keeps that area from forming clots. Okay, and so it keeps the blood flowing through the tissue, which helps the tissue heal and all this. And they leave they call it a Y shape because they use certain leeches for medical purposes. They have 3 rows of teeth, and they leave just a small Y bite mark that they say usually heals without scarring or anything. Yep. Well, it says encourages blood flow. Right. So it doesn't clot, and the blood flow is, improved, and therefore it helps the little, the surgery area heal faster. They're actually looking at doing leech therapy for some arthritis, and I looked at it, and this is what in my mind, what I thought it'd be good for. And there has been a study. I'm not going to read the whole study or anything like that, but they are looking at it using it for gout. And gout, as I understand it, is usually in joints, mostly in the feet. I don't know why. In the toes, maybe the heel, the ankle. And it's a buildup of lactic acid, not from working out. Your muscles, if you get sore muscles, that's because they have a buildup of lactic acid due to exercise. It's a byproduct of the exercise, like lifting weights or running, or exerting, using muscles. Like if you go out for the first time and you're raking your yard, your arms get sore, maybe your forearms get sore from raking. That's because there's a buildup of lactic acid in the muscles. But this is uncontrolled buildup of lactic acid in joints, and usually in the feet, toes, and that kind of stuff. So I thought, hey, put a leech on them things, man, let it suck out that lactic acid out of the joints, make it all better. And so they did do a study, and it does show some benefits for leeching. Basically, leeches are good for blood flow. All right. So yes, there's blood taken out, and in my book, it only makes sense if you have gout. You place the leeches around the area where it is, because it draws the blood out. It's going to be drawing the lactic acid out, but it also promotes good blood flow in the area, and as you all know, that should help flush out the lactic acid, improve blood flow, should help the body get rid of it naturally, and therefore alleviate the gout and the pain associated with it. But most of them are used in those, not for gout, but for plastic surgeries. And let's see, what was that other one? There was something else they were using specifically for. dilates blood vessels, increases blood flows, prevent blood from clotting. It's used to prevent blood clots following surgery. So I didn't understand a lot about leeches. I mean, you think you go into the pond. There's actually a couple of different kinds of leeches. There's aquatic leeches that, and we talked about this for a little while at work today, was if a leech is not on you, on a human, sucking human blood, what's it doing? Just laying there in the mud waiting? Well, Robert, you're right. They do attach themselves and suck blood from fish, frogs. Some of them actually eat insect larvae and different things like that. But they'll attach themselves to mammals, the fish, toads, frogs, basically anything that comes swimming by. They don't always lay in the mud. Apparently, I don't know if you call it swim, but they can be collected off or just below the surface of the water with a net. And we'll talk about how people fish, usually for walleye. That's what I found doing the research, is apparently leeches are good bait for walleye. And I don't know where you catch walleye, but all the videos that I saw were like in Canada. People trapping leeches and things like that and using them to fish. And that was, I guess, walleyes as a pretty good sized fish, and it must be in the northern, territories or countries or states, whatever you want to say. But like I said, there's the aquatic leech, and then, excuse me, there's land-based leeches, and I never knew that. Apparently, they hang out on plants and hold their hands out, and as you come by, they grab a hold of it. It's not really their hands. Leeches have suckers on both ends. Ooh. Wow, that's cool. Both ends. So on one end there's lots, and the other end there's not. Just a little bit. Kind of reminds me, I think, the way they move in my mind, they're related to the earthworm, so they kind of slither. But if they have these on each end, they could do the inchworm deal. Right? So, walleye are abundant around here. Really? Bigger up north. Well, leeches are from around here. In fact, leeches are everywhere. Right? So, they're in every continent. There's no freshwater leeches in Antarctica, I think I read. But other than that, you can find leeches pretty much anywhere you go. And there are leeches in the ocean. So this leads me to thinking, I must be lucky as all get it. And I don't know. I'm going to ask people in the chat, ask people that might watch this later, have you ever had a leech get on you? I don't think I've ever had a leech. I don't ever remember. And I've waded in ponds. I've waded in creeks. And if they're on the land, I've never gotten one on me anywhere. And if they're so prevalent, how come I've never gotten one? So anybody in the chat ever had a leech on them that you've had, and get it off? Okay? Let me know. But I've never had one. So maybe I just haven't been in the right places. Maybe the water and the ponds and stuff that I've been messing around with were too fast for me. Because they like the muddy, still waters of a pond or something that doesn't move, like a lake or a swamp or or something like that. So quail has. They don't know how much blood they ingest, but they can ingest like 4 or 5 times their own body weight in blood. They're those, like I said, they're common to an earthworm, and they're close to an earthworm, so they have both male and female reproductive organs, but they cannot reproduce themselves. So what it says they do is they lay a daisy chain into head to toe, head to toe, head to toe, and they exchange eggs and sperm packets. And then the eggs are put into like a cocoon kind of deal. Just weird, really weird. But they breathe through their skin. Digestive system contains a crop or pouch in which food can be stored for several months. 1 to 4 pairs of eyes are located in the interior end. Both have functional reproductive organs, both sexes. They're not self-fertilizating. One individual fertilizes. Sperm from one individual leech can only fertilize eggs from a separate individual. So they're laid in the cocoon, which may be deposited on land or in water. Development and growth are direct without a free living larva stage. So I guess they come out of the cocoon leeches. Alright. And it says the aquatic leeches may feed on the blood of fishes, amphibians, birds, mammals, or they may eat small snails, insect larvae, or worms. True land leeches feed only on the blood of mammals. Right? These have 3 jaws set with sharp teeth that make a Y-shaped incision in the flesh. So in the research, looking these things up, I heard, kept seeing the reference to medicinal leeches. And I believe any leech could be used, but the type of wound and the jaws and those kind of things lead me to believe that the medicinal leeches are pretty much what they're considering these land-based leeches. So they call it a European medicinal leech. They have a head sucker and a posterior sucker. Let me do this. So double clicky there, clicky there, clicky there, dokey dokey. Turn that on. Transition. Oh, hold on. I'm getting there. Whoop. That didn't work. That works. Throw that out there. Bam. Alright. So get me where, that's not me. Get me out of the way. Put me over here. I'm getting there. Okay. So there you go. Can y'all see that? So this is the European medicinal leech. This is the Y-shaped little thing that it, leaves. And I guess they're showing it now without any skin because it's got all these mouth parts and jaws and ridge and teeth and head sucker and all this other stuff. Blood storage organ, intestine. Got an anus, posterior sucker. So this is from Britannica Encyclopedia. So got a picture of. Alright, so I guess that is pretty much common for leeches. Giant Amazon leech. There's some of these things that grow up to like a foot. I think the most common one are 6 to 8 inches. Now that's a pretty little guy. He's not even black. He's got some shiny to him. Got some color. This guy's just black. But this guy, that's pretty cool. So so you can feel it. You can't feel it. Yeah. Yeah. So let's get up. There's all those pictures. Let's see. What was this one? Okay, so here is the effectiveness of leech therapy. They give the, man, I can't pronounce these words and stuff. Acute gout. It has a pilot study. I don't know where this was. It is Panda something something blah 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 2012. I don't know where this was conducted. It wasn't in the United States. They had 22 patients of acute gout from OPD of our institute by present exclusion and blah da 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 da. Observation and results. Total 22 patients were recruited in the study, and man patient 64% are dominant in the study with more educated people. We attach the leech by gripping in dry gauze to the site or by placing a drop of glucose on the desired site. We notice that sometimes leech migrate from one site to another. 90% patients describe the initial leech therapy as painless. The mean feeling time was 32, I don't know what that means, minutes. The mean quality of blood sucked by an individual leech per suck is 2 milliliters. 3 patients had mild to moderate itching and bleeding from the site of application. Now, they say some people are allergic to leeches, and the fact that they are anticoagulant, that when you pull them off, that that continues to, the blood doesn't clot. You just continue to bleed from the wound, even though it's short-lived. They say the best way to have them removed, if you can, is sprinkle salt on them like a slug. It creates, makes them uncomfortable, and they release to get away from the pain or the uncomfortableness, and they release and let go. Okay, so down here, changes in primary outcome pain was significantly reduced immediate after the leech therapy and completely disappeared in 28 days. I mean, that's like saying you cure the cold, you take this pill, and in, 7 to 12 days, hey, your cold's gone. Because, in 28 days, unless acute gout, maybe it lasts forever, a long time. I don't know. But it says disappear in 28 days, whereas pain in control group was poorly reduced and reappeared after the sensation of application of some kind of gel in the affected area. Secondary outcomes were also assessed by the patients in the investigation global assessment response to the therapy, tenderness, swelling, and noting something in leech and control groups. So I think that just basically says that pain was reduced in the mean, whatever the mean was, the average, something like that. So me and Robert talked about this. If you were in the wild and you were starving, could you eat a leech? And the answer was, Robert, yes, you could. Should you? You decide. But you can. And according to this, you could cook them, or you can eat the little bad boys raw. No thank you. Of course, I've never been hungry enough to where I would consider eating leeches. Okay? But let's think about this. If you're a do or die thing, you're going to do whatever's necessary. And a leech, if you have the water that you have to get leeches out of may not be fit to drink. You might not be able to boil water. To me, a survival situation is you're limited on, especially one where you're thinking about, man, I could eat some leeches. You know, man, some leeches would be good. But you use yourself as bait, okay? So you don't have to catch anything to catch leeches. All right? Eat maggots first. Listen to me. I would rather eat a leech as a maggot. And I'll tell you why. First off, yes, I know. Scavengers. They take in stuff that you wouldn't eat yourself and produce it, reduce it in their bodies to something that you could eat. Okay? Catfish, or we talked about that, prime example. Bottom feeders eat everything. You would not eat what a catfish eats, but you would eat a catfish. So, I wouldn't eat what a maggot eats. Okay? And I'm not going to go to a dead animal and harvest, maggots, or sit over a carcass and pick it out and get off all the little hair and the decaying flesh and eat them things. But would I go and stick my foot in a pond, swish it around in the mud, pull it out, and I'm like, oh man, there's a leech, and pull it off there, pop it in your mouth, chew it up and eat it? I would rather do that than to eat maggots out of a dead possum's butt or something. Okay? So if we're ever trapped together and we're sitting next to an old swampy pond and a dead possum's laying there, you take the possum and eat the maggots, and I'm going to dangle my feet in the pond and I'm trying to get me some leeches. So I'm gonna, but when you eat leeches, if you eat them raw, they say this guy, whoever this person is, Joe Reddy, okay, ReddyLifestyle.com, survival situation. You eat raw leeches, live leeches, chew them first, good, he says. You don't want to try to swallow live leeches, right? So some people think, oh, we'll just throw them in your mouth and swallow them real quick. That way, you want a live leech trying to go down your throat, and if he makes it out of your, in your throat, in your belly, you know what he's going to do? He's going to immediately attach himself to the inside of your belly, your stomach wall, and start sucking blood and create a wound in your stomach. Yeah, eventually he's going to die, the acid, right? I don't think it's going to be instantaneous. What happens if it gets caught in your throat, latches on the side of your throat, starts sucking blood out of your windpipe or whatever? Chew him up. Bite the head off first. Spit it out. Chew the rest of it. But anyway, this guy says, chew them good before you swallow. Or cook them. However, I would think everybody wants stuff fried. If you have the way to make fire, I'd just shish kebab them little things on a stick, rotate them over there like a little old weenie, eat them that way. Or boil them. See, now they're getting into that, man. You got to have a pot. You got a way to make fire. You've got water. If you're that good off in a survival situation, maybe there's not a lot else to eat. But see, if you can catch leeches or maggots, maybe you're resourceful enough to be able to make a hook, or you have a hook. Maybe you can fish with the leech, catch you some walleye, and eat it. So, but you can eat leeches, and you could eat maggots. I just don't want to go around trying to find maggots. Sorry, Robert. If you bring maggots to work to eat, I don't think I'm going to eat it. Now, I am going to try to grow maggots for my chickens. All right? I'm going to do that. Where in the devil did I just get music from? That guy. Shut up. All right. That was a YouTube video. I was watching to see how they made leech traps. But it's really very simple. In fact, the ones that I saw, oh, got the same silly pictures up here. The ones that I saw, I'll explain them to you. But the one guy had the quickest and the easiest ways, and I don't know why anybody would do the other way. I guess it depends on what you got. Okay, so 10 things you don't know about leeches. Leeches are actually worms. Alright? They have a lot in common with the everyday earthworm. Important differences. Leeches' bodies are more solid than earthworms. Would you eat earthworms? There's another thing. I guess in a way of survival, grubs for the win. Yes, there you go. I would go full chicken. If I was survival mode, I'd go full chicken. Meaning, I would be turning over leaves, rocks, dirt, dead stumps, everything to try to find worms and grubs. I think that's where I would be going. Worms and grubs. First thing, easy. Get the low-hanging fruit, man. Something you can get up off the ground, eat worms and grubs. Then, get your food. Then, because I think that would be easier, but you may not be that lucky. I don't know. So, leeches, not all leeches suck blood, okay? Blood-eating leeches are only one type, although the ones that are most often noticed. Mostly dancing around, trying to rip them off your legs. Many freshwater leeches don't eat blood at all. They're carnivores. They stick to mollusks, insect larvae, and worms. Alright, then like I said, the ones that do suck blood, frogs, snails, turtles, aquatic creatures, hermaphrodites, that means they have both male and female sex organs. Leeches are everywhere. Leeches are found in pretty much every continent, and there are no freshwater leeches in Antarctica, but you can find little suckers floating in every ocean in the world. They can get really big. I'm not measuring in centimeters, but, they're 6 to 8 inches when they stretch out. Leeches are used in medicine. No. Well, that's not true. Because a little down here at the bottom, it talks about doctors use leeches with their blood clot busting saliva to help drain blood from swollen areas following reconstructive surgery. Especially small areas, lots of blood vessels like ears, fingers, toes, those kind of things. Leeches don't have ears. Interesting. They feel things. Have a strong sense of taste and touch. Some can go a year without food. And here's what we were talking about. If you get one stuck to you, just let it finish eating, and then it'll drop off. All right, or you can sprinkle salt on them. Leeches eat a lot, relatively speaking. They're capable of eating up to 5 times their body weight in blood. So there's 10 things about leeches. So I read a little bit of the story about leeches. And this is what these kids would do when they went fishing and they needed bait. They'd flip a coin and between the brothers, they'd flip a coin, and the loser, right, had to strip down naked. I don't know why. They stripped down, and he would go out into the swamp, into the bayou, into wherever they lived, and he'd have like a little straining net, a bucket, and he would walk through the swamp and scoop up anything like, bait fish or, minnows or even leeches that were on top, floating around on water. And then when he got out and he had leeches on him, then they would take a knife and scrape the leeches off into the bucket. So the loser had to be the one to get out there and act as bait. And then they learned how to make traps. So the trap is really very simple. This is, I was going to read some of this. This is old-timey, how far back leeching goes and all that kind of stuff. Too many snapping turtles. Yeah, that would be an issue. But yeah, snapping turtles would be a big issue. They traps. All right. So the guy showed a YouTube video, but basically one easy trap is you take a pie tin. All right, the old, just like you buy, this guy's buying his at the dollar store, and fold it in half. And then where the edges come together, they were folding them over, crimping them together, so it made, just like a taco with the edges. What is that? Is it like a calzone where they put that stuff and then they pinch the edges together? It's like a calzone. Okay, so have a pie tin. They fold it in the middle. He was using chicken liver, and some guys use beef liver, but bloody meat. Drop it down in there, fold it up, crimp the edges together, and poke holes. He said dime-sized holes in there, just like crabbing, basically. And they were attaching fishing line, poking a hole through it, tying a fishing line through it, and then anchoring it, tossing it into the muddy water, letting it sink to the bottom, and then they were coming back the next day and pulling it up, uncrimping the edges and opening it up, and whatever could get into the holes, basically leeches and stuff, tracked to the meat, and there they would be. Okay, the one that I liked the best was the guy who had the coffee can, and the only thing he did was the coffee can's the same deal, right? He took a punch of some kind, a nail, whatever it was, and made big holes all over in the bottom, everything in the coffee can. He dropped his chicken livers down in there, popped the top on it, had a string tied to it, threw it out there, let it sink, and then come back the next day and had 40 or 50 leeches. Okay, 40 or 50 leeches, which is pretty good. And then he would use those to go. And I guess it's like everything else. You have a minnow bucket, you have some way to keep them alive, and you go. My question would be, and they didn't talk about it because I didn't watch the whole thing. But I noticed in one of them, it looked like he had some gloves. So if I were baiting a hook with a leech, I would probably use a glove. I mean, I don't know how quick those things are, but you don't want to be attached to your bait when you put it on there to go fishing. So you're fishing that thing, putting it on a hook, and it reaches around and just latches onto your finger. There you go. Now you got a leech bite on your finger. So I'd probably wear a glove, or chop head off or something. But like every bait, you want it live so it wiggles around and attracts the fish. But anyway, so it was that simple. It's just like a crab trap. Put the bait inside, things go in there, get all fat and sassy and lazy and laying in there, and then you pull them up the next day and they're trapped. So, how far back does leeching go? All the way. It goes all the way back. So, 1855. That's not far enough back, man. They used leeches, and I guess a lot of it is, documentation. So I think the one thing that I read was Egyptians used it. There was some kind of picture showing leeches being used on somebody back in the Egyptian days. But, it went through its phases in the medieval times. That's where bloodletting, that kind of stuff. There's one guy, this guy here, I don't know how you say his name. He was the chief physician at this military hospital in Paris, and he treated every soldier, it didn't matter, dysentery, syphilis, typhus, everything, with leeches. So if you went to his hospital, they applied 30 leeches to every new patient, no matter what your problem was. I mean, why would you do that? But, they thought it would cure typhoid, fever, everything. They just used it everything. And now they're just using it for very specific purposes, right? So they can be used for medicine. They can be eaten. They can be caught and used as bait. They're everywhere, right? If I had a pond, I might fish for leeches and feed them to my chickens. I want to try to grow maggots. I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure out how to do. They have I don't think anything's odorless, but there's recipes out there for using vegetables, seeds, mixing them up, and it attracts the flies. Other than dead meat, it attracts the flies. The flies lay their egg. It's got to be certain conditions. They lay their eggs in there, and then the maggots develop. All right. So I'm not going to go out and scrape up raw dead possum off the side of the road and feed it to the chickens. That would stink. But anyway, I am going to try to grow maggots. Black fly maggots are, you can buy them off Facebook, by the way. It's like you're searching for stuff, and you look at that and you maggots, and sure enough, you can buy black fly larvae maggots. There's a place in South Carolina that sells them, but you probably won't ship them or anything. There's always these shipping live stuff through the mail, UPS. You have to have special stuff, I guess, to do that. But anyway, well, my wife had a bearded dragon, and she used to get live crickets and mealworms and all those kind of things. Man, I'm telling you what, that stuff is outrageous. If you go to Tractor Supply or Rural Town or Rural King or whatever and get dried mealworms, they're $60 for like a 5-pound bag. It's crazy. Now, yeah, 5-pound bag's going to get you bunches of them. But, you know how much chickens would eat it? They'd eat it quick. So, maybe one day, I don't know, maybe we ought to try leech fishing. If I knew somebody that had a pond, I don't know any old people have ponds. Well, no, I take that back. I bet you my brother-in-law could put me in touch with these people. They go fishing at their pond. And there was one of these old guys that's got a pond, a big old pond, and they stock it with fish. They let my brother-in-law and his daddy go fishing at night in this pond. And I bet you I could do some, well, if they're called mealworms, why wouldn't you eat them, Robert? What we had larvae And crickets, there's still some at the shop. You could eat them, and they're flavored, ranch flavored. You ever seen those super worms? She used to get those super worms that are like big old grubs, man. That bearded dragon loved those things. Maybe I'll see if I can get permission to do some leech trapping and see if there's any. Because I don't know if you could go to South Holston and just, throw stuff out there and come back and get it the next day. I don't know if there's leeches in South Holston or not. That's a good question. But anyway, so that was leeches. Just something interesting you don't think about, you hear about, but you don't really think about. So if you happen to watch this video later, leave me, a comment, like, subscribe. I say that all the time because nobody does it. Well, I gotta say it all the time. But got any comments, questions? Leave me, send me an email. I need to. I see my telephone number's still not there. I know you saw it when you bring that other thing up. Anyway, whatever. I have to fix it. Something tore up now. Anyway, appreciate everybody coming and watching, and the people that watch it later. Appreciate you sitting down and watching it. And today's Monday, so Thursday, be another episode. Maybe we'll do maggots then. I don't know. Talk about what can you use to feed your chickens when they won't eat corn or grain. My chickens, I was afraid they're going to starve to death anyway. I won't talk about that. That'll probably be for another show. But anyway, I appreciate everybody coming. Yeah, you can see the number in the black, but remember, it used to be gray. The background, the picture is a gray background. I don't know why it's not showing up. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Next time we'll figure it out. The only thing that concerns me is the sound seemed to be doing pretty good. The dropped frames has picked up. It's not doing very well. I can't figure out. It starts out okay, and then as we go along, it gets worse and worse. But see, right now, YouTube says the stream current bit rate is lower than something, and it's blocked out. But it's got a warning. So the stream's current bit rate, gives it to me, is lower than recommended bit rate. We recommend that you use the stream bit rate of 4500 kbps. Well, I would if it was whatever. So, appreciate everybody. I'm going to close this out and go to bed. I'm tired. Work comes early. See y'all. Bye-bye.